next little session. Hello, folks. So today's session is all about how to use your digital twin and how to make that useful for you. Kim has probably shown you and worked with you when onboarding you into your digital twin, but it's a lot to take in 2 hours. And so this is basically a refresh and an ability for you guys to all get off on the same page. So today we kind of want to get through a few things, identify for you each what are your sinks and emissions or your carbon footprint and where they can be found within the twin. Then identify where your report for each of the twins is. And that report will, help you understand what kind of level of emissions your farm currently produces and where you might have an opportunity to offset those emissions with your own project and therefore be able to stay net zero and face, no locked gates when it comes to access to markets. And perhaps there's premiums and other values that you'll be paid for. And in practical terms, I'm going to also be using this Miro board. And you can see on screen, we've got a bit of an agenda for today. We're going to show you how to log in. And then if you've never logged in, how to reset your password so that you can log in. And then we've got a few things, like I want to show you one of the more advanced or two of the more advanced digital twins and how they're using them in projects. These are digital twins of members of Regen Farmers Mutual who aren't part of the Traprock. And so I can't give you access, but I have permission from them to show you. I want to show you how to navigate basic things, adding people, adding assets, how to use the layers on your map, even how to do a mapping of a geographic area. And that last but not least, how to log an activity. And after we've done a few of these things, I think the best way is to show you how to do it. There's a video explaining how to do it, and then maybe to stop sharing screen and give you 2 minutes to do one for yourself in your twin. And that way we'll all get a chance of seeing it in action, doing it, and locking it into our memories. Does that all sound okay? Any objections? Any questions at this point?
Sounds good.
Okay.
All good.
So coming, each of you have a report. Oh, sorry, I'm making this quite large, but I'm not meaning to. Paul, your digital twin address is here. Amanda and Mark, Peter, Michael and Deb, Andrew and Helen, Donna and Brad, Rodney and Valerie, Peter and Amanda. Each of your digital twins is here, and Kim will put the report links here and send them to you individually. And that way you can actually know your own unique carbon position. There is a little video I wanted to take you through around carbon. But before I do, I just want to check, Andy, have you already shared that carbon video with the team prior?
The one that you recorded?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did that. I sent those links around. Yep.
Okay, so is everybody seen it? Is everybody happy with the general carbon findings that we found on the Traprock, or has anybody got any questions? Or I can play it again, but I didn't want to bore you by putting you through my voice.
Can I also say, Wardy, that the link to your video is in each person's individual report as well.
Oh, well then definitely let's use this time to get people using their digital twin rather than watching a video through a conference. That's not fun to do. So you will each have access to this video and to your own digital twins. So if you go to your twin, you'll be familiar. You need to put in your username or your password, and then you can log in. So what that looks like on Model Farm as an example, which is on screen at the moment, I'll log out and I just enter in my username, my password, log in, and that brings me to the dashboard. If I give you all a minute, can you try and log into your own twin, and anybody who's got a problem, let me know now, and then we can help you get access to your twin. Okay.
I know I've helped Rick and Donna this morning reload their passwords.
Awesome. So
I'm in. Donna here. I've got mine up, so that's okay. Thank you, Kim.
Good,
thank you,
good.
Donna. Paul, Ray for Barongarook, are you guys in?
Yes, we are.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm in. How are you going, Paul?
I'm just logging in. Hello, Ray.
G'day.
And Rick and Andy, any problems logging in on your end?
No, surprisingly.
No, we're in.
All right. The main challenge people have is they forget their password, or they didn't reset a password after their first time login. And the way that we handle that, if you come to a twin and you can't remember your password or you didn't save it, enter in your name, your username or your email in the reset password. So in this case, I'll just put in Andrew at Regen Farmers Mutual. And what it will do when I press submit, it will say, congratulations, this is a valid account. An email will be sent with instructions to reset your password. When that comes in, the subject line looks like replacement login for the digital twin number. And you'll get an email that says, hello, a request to reset the password has happened. And when you click on that, you'll be able to log in and you'll be able to reset your password to whatever it is that you want. However, please be aware there'll be, they like you to have an @ or an exclamation or a hash or a non-alphanumeric integer in there. And they like you to have numbers and letters capitalized and non-capitalized. But actually it's your twin. You have got the right to choose how secure you want it to be. So you can put in a password that is ABCD 1 2 3 4 and it will work. It's just that that's a lower level of security. All right, I just want to stop there and check in with everybody. Is everybody okay so far? They can log in. They're comfortable that if they lost their password, they'd be able to find their password again?
Yep.
Yep.
All right. I've always been told in presentations, if you start with what the aspirational kind of view of things looks like, then people will be more inclined to stay with you as you go through some of the boring stuff. So if it's all right with you, I'll show you one of the more advanced twins and how those farmers are using it so that you can picture for yourself what it's meant to come and look like ultimately. I've got a few here. I'll go to Top Yarraman. So Top Yarraman is the farm of James Campbell, and he is based out near Biggar, not far from Canberra in the central tablelands. And you'll see here he's got, a few land assets, quite a few structure assets, water assets, and he's made a few observations here. Jim has been very keen on identifying where his opportunities are. So he's frequently going through his assets and identifying opportunities for carbon abatement, whether it's this Bartlett's Dam area where he's seeking to get Commonwealth Bank financing to regenerate that dam, and needed to be able to show what's the area, how good does it look. And Jim's sort of a little bit further behind Dalness. So Dalness is a farm down in Tasmania, run by Simone and Will Randall. And they've used a lot of software in the past. They're one of the more advanced farmers that exist. They're the only farmers in Australia who've done both the enhancing remnant vegetation and carbon plus biodiversity projects that the federal government released. And in order to generate those projects, they've had to do a lot of mapping and understand what's going on their ecosystem, what's going on with regards to their water flows, where vegetation needs to be enhanced, where it needs to be left alone. I'll give you an example. When you come to them, they've got their land asset, they've got a lot of activities already logged. And for example, in date format, by the 20th of October, they've got to put their enhancing remnant vegetation signature in and get their signature, their agreement made. So this area that is in orange is their remnant vegetation area. It relates to this pilot program, which relates to this remnant vegetation agreement, which has all of the details. This is going to open up pages, but has all the details of what they need to comply with in order to meet the government's enhanced remnant vegetation deed requirements. In a similar way, they have the same level of information around around their carbon plus biodiversity project. And the carbon plus biodiversity project, as you can see, is taking up quite significantly different areas to the ERV project. It has different requirements, and their twin has been used in order to identify where are the opportunities on their farm and what are the reporting requirements that they'll need to comply with once they've made an agreement either with the federal government if they're selling through the ERF, or you can imagine that there'll be other agreements coming down the pipeline, not just from the federal government, but from corporations and direct buyers who might be interested in enhancing remnant vegetation, or they might be interested in protecting box gum grassy woodlands. Either way, you're going to use the twin to identify where that project area is, what are the activities and the values that you're promoting, and what measurements and activities you need to do, and how the twin can assist you to prove that you've done those things. So that's where we're trying to get to. We're trying to get the Traprock twins to be useful in terms of helping you identify really two known opportunities: your carbon opportunity on farm and your shared co-regenerating asset, biodiversity asset, which will act as a link. And so just like we saw on the Dalness farm, you're going to have an ERV equivalent, which will be your carbon equivalent or your biodiversity project equivalent, and you'll have a C plus B. And each of them will be separate assets that you're managing with your twin, and each of them will have compliance requirements. And you'll know what your compliance requirements are because you'll have been doing them in your twin. I'm going to now get into some quite boring stuff where we play a video and you see how something's done, and then I'll give you time to do it yourself. But before I go into that boring bit, there is an opportunity to ask questions. And if you've got some questions, shoot. Otherwise, we'll go through these step by step. I'll show you how it's done, and then you try it in your twin. And if you've got a problem, speak up. We're here to, as one-on-one training, or one-to-many, but not too many. We can actually get in, share screen, and guide you through any problems so that they are no longer problems. Does that sound okay? Does that sound fair?
Yep.
All right.
Andrew, it's Peter here.
Yes. Hi, Peter.
You guys were going to see if you could import that KML file for my farm. That helps to get all the paddocks and everything in.
I was
Yeah.
just writing a message to you then, Peter, just on that exact subject.
Okay.
Peter, it was odd. Kim did tell me, and I've been able to import other KMLs into your twin and uncouple them. So I think actually that we've maybe got a corrupted export from your KML file. But
I don't know. We brought it into Google again, and
Yeah.
that's fine because I thought maybe that's the case.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I can send you another one again, but yeah, it was quite odd because it's basically just the polygons.
Yeah, and I mean, let's deal with that totally today. So I'll get us going. There's, I think, the third or fourth video will be on mapping, and while everybody's taking their time to do their own mapping, I'll throw you and I and maybe Kim into a breakout room, and we can separately look at your twin, and we'll be able to do
Okay.
that without everybody else having to see the insides of your twin.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. But thank you for making that point. So I apologize in advance. A lot of this is listening to me talk. Sorry. It's just what happens. Hi, folks. If you're navigating your digital twin, there's a few simple tricks. Up in the logo, it's like a home button. It'll always take you back to the dashboard. On your dashboard, you'll always have your map, upcoming tasks, and your various logs and assets. When you're navigating, you navigate from the left, and then it uses this sort of breadcrumb motif for enabling you to navigate. So you can navigate all the different items. They are records, integrations, people, and settings. Say you're going to add a specific asset, like a land asset. What will appear is a big green button. Once you've navigated from the left, the button appears on the right. So you can click that and then do the individual action. Up here are breadcrumbs, which enable you to go back to the site or go back to the specific area that you were in. Okay, so just a quick reminder, navigate from the left, big button on the right. Thank you. All right, guys, that was about as exciting as these are going to get. I'll turn that one off. Do you need some time to practice navigating? Can I get you all to navigate to adding a land asset. And when you've done that, just either thumbs up or yeah, say yep or good.
Not going to add one.
No. We could add a fence.
So you navigate from the left-hand side. Thank you, Ray.
You found one, but not added.
Plant.
Found it. All right. Andy Ferrier, how are you going?
Yeah, I'm in there.
Yep. So you can navigate from the left, create on the right, big button. Okay. So
I'm good, mate.
thank you, Rick. I'm gonna just play this one as well. This is an example of navigation. Hopefully. You guys getting my spinning wheel as well?
Yes.
Oh, exciting. All right. So you might want to add people to your twin. This could be, you know, service providers or employees. This could be people that you want to give specific data to. So navigate from the left-hand side, find people. You get this big green button, add the person. So I might just add Sam. There we go. I often find that it's easier to use the email address of the person for their password. I mean, sorry, for their username, use the email address. But you could choose a different username. You usually want to click notify user of the account, and then you'll want to give them the right sort of privileges for the sort of work that you want them to be able to do. Make sure to select the time zone and create account. It's that simple to add a new person and to give them the right level of access to view information or input information on your digital twin. Okay, thanks.
Question, Wardy.
Yeah, mate.
What
You might
what
want
type of
to add
people would you be
people
adding in
to
there?
your twin. This could be, you
Sorry.
know, service. Go for it, and sorry, say that again.
Sorry, I was just asking a question. What type of people would you be looking to put into that area? Other than multi-
Your team, your family, your advisors, those sorts of people that are going to either influence a decision or be influenced by a decision, you might give viewer access to. And anybody who's got the capacity to make a decision on your behalf, I would give manager access to those sorts of people. If you haven't already, you know, Kim has probably got access to each of your twins because she onboarded you, but you might like to give access to Southern Queensland Landscapes or like Holly Hosey, who's there, might be able to provide you with additional maps or additional information that she has around your property. So if you want her to be able to see your farm, to input into your farm, you would navigate from the left, add person, enter in her email address as her username, set her an initial password, and send that off to her. She'll get a notification in her email saying she's been invited to your digital twin and she has X, Y, and Z level of access. So that there's an example, Andy. I don't know if that was helpful.
Definitely.
Another
And
example is
I'm
if
guessing
you're
that-
working with a local agronomist in setting up your pastures and minerals and all those sorts of things that you're using, you might want to give them access to specific areas as well, so that you can work together to bring up a program that you're working on.
Good example, Kim. Andy, you were saying something. You happy?
Now, is it point I was going to make is that at some stage we're going to have to get some specialists or experts in, trying to monitor or either assess what we've got here. Someone like Greg Ford from used to be QMDC, would there be someone that like you'd link into one of these twins?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's how someone like that, you can give them access for a time, or you can give them access outright. One of the things I should show you, just to bring up, did we lose model farm in that process? You can remove access for people as well. So as people go along, if you want to say take out the guest or Jolene Farmer, or I invited Sam, but I want to remove his roles, I can take him from 0. He has no roles. And then I can even cancel his account. And when I cancel it, if they've been an employee and you want to keep their content in your twin because that remains the same, or you want to shift it to somebody else, either way, disable the account and unpublish its content, disable the account and make its content to anonymous, or delete the account and its content. This action cannot be undone. And do you want to require email confirmation, or are you happy for it just to go straight through? So I'm going to say confirm. And what I've done there, when we go back here, you can see Sam is now blocked, so no longer has access to the digital twin. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to do the thing that, at least in your early days, is the most common requirement of the digital twin. And that is how to create a land asset. Now, Peter, this is the exact process that we've gone through with the KML that you sent, but it hasn't worked. So once we've shown this video and everybody's trying it at home, you and I and Kim can go into a breakout room and have a conversation about that. Is that okay? Hi, folks. We're going to add an asset at this point. So what we do is we come over here, we navigate from the left. We're going to choose a particular type of asset. In this case, it'll be a land asset. That pops up on the right-hand side, a button which you navigate to. So I just want to call this the boundary, for example. And it's going to be an active asset. With flags, you can monitor whether the assets need, to have an action associated with them. Flags are more useful for logs than they are for assets. This is a boundary, so I'm going to apply this to the whole property. You can make any notes. You can, as you get more into your twin, you can add parent assets and child or daughter assets to them. If you were doing animal assets and they had an ID tag, this is where you can put them in. Sometimes you'll have other people using the digital twin to navigate to assets. So you might want to attach an image of what that asset looks like. If you're talking about multiple sheds and you want to identify which shed you're talking about on the farm, having a photo of that one might be useful. As we're bringing in a land asset, I want to show you how to do that from a file. So I'm just going to ask this one to find me example. .kml. There we are. So find the file. Once that's taken up, you'll notice that there's this geography. You can navigate to locate the asset, and then use the tools to map. But if you've got it on file, you can import the geometry like we've done here and just press save. So for any asset, a land asset, a water asset, a structural asset, the process is the same. Navigate from the left, big red button will appear on the top right, and then enter in the detail. I hope that's useful. We'll do a water asset next. So I might just play that water asset video now, if that's all right. And then you'll have seen the two ways to create an asset. The next one for water asset includes how to draw it. Hi, folks. So we're going to create an asset this time. Instead of importing from file, we're going to import or we're going to create the asset within the twin. So this will just be a water asset that we're choosing. As a water asset, or as with every asset, you've got status, flags, notes, parents, ID tags, images of the asset. If you have it on file, you can bring it in. What we're going to do here is just navigate to the particular asset that we're interested in. This is, say, a dam asset on the farm. Now, we're going to use the polygon tool, which is this little square tool, to draw around the asset. Now, you can make it as defined and specific as you like, or as coarse and granular as you like. Once you've created that polygon, press save, and you've now got a new dam asset in your register of assets. You can now see, oh, we've got our boundary fence and our dam asset in place. So creating assets, like everything else, navigate from the left, button appears on your right, and that enables you to then do the specific action. Hope that helps. Speak soon. Okay. Does everybody following those two videos on how to add an asset, and would you like an opportunity to do that in your own twins? I'm going to take Silence's excited and enthusiastic desire to create an asset in our own twin.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
You use a .kml file there to create something. Now that is as I understand it, that is a file that relates to Google Earth. So it's presumably bringing in information from Google Earth, or bringing you into some data in Google Earth. I'm not exactly certain of it. But are there other GIS file types that you can use? In other words, is the Regen Farmers Mutual GIS system generic, or is it just rebadged Google Earth?
Good question. So it's not rebadged Google Earth. It's generic. So let me take you back to escape there. I'll take you back to the digital twin. Back to site. Now, if I'm going to add an asset, and we'll choose a land asset here, ABC, and we'll make it any particular asset. When I bring it in from KML is the easiest, but you can actually bring in GeoJSON, KMZ, all of these WMS, all of these file types are allowable. And if we get, as we often do, shape files that come out of ArcGIS or QGIS, what we tend to do is bring them across from their native format as shape files, actually 5 files, and then convert. So there are many converters that will take a SHP, like a shape file, SHP to KML, that'll enable you to convert a shape file to a KML file or to a KMZ file, or any number of softwares will help you take them out. We aren't so much rebadged Google Earth, as Google Earth is something that a lot of government departments have rebadged. So in New South Wales, the popular mapping service called 6 Maps is actually just Google Earth rebadged. So everything that comes out of New South Wales comes out as a KML, and it enables us to fairly easily integrate it into the digital twin. In Queensland, you guys have got, what's that, Queensland Global, which seems to be a really good mapping service. But
Yeah,
I
there's
think
two,
the
there's
expert,
QGlobe and QSpatial.
sorry,
There's two. There's QGlobe and QSpatial, which is an Esri format.
and exporting from there as either shape files or KMZs, you can bring them into the digital twin, and vice versa. In your digital twin, any shape that you create as a new land asset, if you've got a GIS software, you can export that as a KML and then put that into your Google Earth, so that what's on your twin is reflected in Google Earth and vice versa.
Okay, so it is flexible. So if one wishes to bring in from another GIS application, for example, a raster file, which is just pixels, it can do that. If you want to bring in a vector file, which has got the shapes, the polygons and that sort of thing, you can do that too.
Yeah, vector files need to be brought up one by one, whereas raster files, you can serve them up from a website, and they can be constantly updated. So what appears in your twin is what's happening at that URL, and that's the only difference. Yeah.
And then can you layer them so that in the way that you do in a GIS program, so you can choose which layers you see at any one time?
Yes, which is the subject of another video in a few seconds. So Rodney, you're ahead of the game. If you can wait 10 minutes, we'll get to that point.
Okay.
Yep. And I would say we can do it with pretty limited functions at the moment, but they'll be the things that, particularly in the next 3 to 4 weeks, that is the functionality that will expand. So sitting here today, you can turn on and off layers, but the layers that you've got available to turn on and off are pretty limited. In the next couple of weeks, all those Southern Queensland landscape layers that Mick Petter was taking us through when we were on at the Stanthorpe Council the other day, we'll bring them into the digital twin. So you'll be able to turn them on and off. And then that will be much better. At the moment, there's only a limited number of layers that we can turn on and off.
Okay, thank you. No more questions.
Anybody else got a question while we're here? Well, Peter, I will set us up a little breakout room and put Kim and yourself and myself in there. And we might need just a couple of minutes to talk, and then I'll come back to the main room. Good luck creating your own assets in the meantime. I'll be back soon.
And if you have any questions, Kirsten can help you.
Oh, yes. good call. Kristen knows more about this than me. Um,
I'm not
I-
sure about that, Wardy, but absolutely here to help.
all right. Kim, do you want to join with Peter?
Kristen, while we're sitting in a blank screen, a question in this pilot projects that we're doing here, I guess it'd be, for me, it would be interesting to know what are the start levels for the assets and to try to get this project up. I know we can go into all sorts of details about every fence line and every dam and all that, but yeah, the really important starting nuts and bolts of it that can help this project. Can you answer that or give it some thought as we go through?
Absolutely. And you'll have to, help me out with the value proposition for your landscape. But I know you were looking at, is it a boxwood land? There's some ecological values. And so for me, and look, my background is ecology. So I'm thinking, what would be so the question for the group around the landscape scale impact and starting from there. So for example, if it's combined carbon projects, then it might be mapping those carbon project areas on the farms. If it's more of a biodiversity or a combination, for me, and this group's got the wonderful advantage of working with the Southeast Queensland, East Queensland Landscapes and their information. So I really think that where we're thinking is the collaboration with them. What are the data layers that they can provide that may inform the landscape impact for you? So and I guess it's a really interesting question because a lot of the regional data layers, they're regional scale. So I guess from the property level is what do you know your properties better than anybody. And even though Southeast Queensland Landscapes may have great regional scale data sets, I think the question is, well, how does that fit with what you know about your property? So if you've got, a corridor or you've got some box woodland on your property and you were to map that, how does then that situate within some of the regional information that we may also import? So I think coming at it, property level data is rare, and it's your data, it's your digital twin. How does that information combine with other property scale information to ground truth, perhaps some of the regional information, but also speak to the possibilities and the opportunities that you're exploring as a landscape impact group? Does that help with that? And it could be water, and it can even be records. So when we're talking assets as well, we're talking generally, property features, but it may be that you have species records as well. So you may look at using logs, and I think it's probably getting a bit ahead of ourselves, and Wardy will come to this, but there are other things we can add to our digital twins that really create a picture of the values and assets that you've got on your farms.
I think Southeast Queensland or South Queensland Landscapes can provide, as you say, the bigger picture stuff, but at some stage we're talking about getting some experts in to really ground truth some of that. And that's where it could be really interesting because like that box-elm grassy woodland is what we talk about. It's in big splotches over the landscape from that broader, bigger picture stuff. But there's a whole lot of, we'll call it high value regrowth that we see in there that is of that same species. It's the way it's mapped and the way it is. So hopefully we can get those experts in to actually ground truth some of that and map that as a layer.
Absolutely, and map it with you so that it's, if it's occurring on your farm, it's there in your twin, and then that's the information you bring to the landscape impact group. And it's kind of like a co-learning journey, isn't it? And this opportunity to bring ecologists and others, likewise, if it were for carbon, it's bringing some carbon knowledge to the project. So for the biodiversity, the other opportunities I see here are around, who else might be interested in, and is there a local university, a school even, bringing young people? Like for me, I kind of I work with Landcare, so we're all about that community approach. Is there, and is there opportunities, other Landcare, other people active in the field friends of groups? There could be some pockets of knowledge out there in your community that you could draw on as well. Particularly around ecology. Yeah. So yeah, it really is about, I think, building up what information is useful for you, for your farm, and then thinking about, well, what other values, ecological values, other values that you can add to the digital twin. And this, I kind of see this conversation, it's interesting because it's evolving, isn't it? And you're kind of, as you're working together as a landscape impact group, you might identify other opportunities, ecological, that you hadn't thought of. And so you would add them over time and build up a more complex picture as you go. Yeah. There's a lot of flexibility in the way that this the digital twin has been set up. Yeah. So, and you can map using that import option that Wardy was showing, but you can also just type in your address and that map, it will zoom into your address, and you can use your mouse to map boundaries or add other information that may not already exist in digital form. It's very flexible. Is there any great, thanks for that question, Andy. And if there are any other questions that you think I might be able to help with, please do fire away. It's interesting, the questions around the link to GIS. And I know that the Southern Queensland Landscapes Group are using, they're kind of doing some really sophisticated analysis with their GIS, and it's likely will take not their base layers, but their thinking, and the outputs from that analysis will be what might inform us in this landscape impact conversation.
Yeah, I guess another thing is just observations. I feel there's a lot of bird groups out there. That's one of my real interests, and we're starting to see quite a lot of quoll through this district. And like Rodney and Valerie seen one in the middle of the day walking down Bitchman Road. So they're out there, and it'd be great to utilise this program to capture those observations and record them.
Yeah, I think that's where the logs will come in handy. And we're also, we have been looking at, there are some great tools out there, iNaturalist, that link to some of there's a living atlas, the Australian Living Atlas, which is a government funded. Originally it was digitising museum records. And so it's a great tool. iNaturalist is a phone app for identification, but you can be logging your species records using that and importing them as logs into the digital twin. But that's something we're really interested in exploring as we get more sophisticated as well, how we might link with some tools like that. But I would definitely be, if you're, and I think quolls, and it's in, if you're doing the protected matters search and you know that there are some significant or threatened species, I definitely think they're worth keeping. You can just keep them in an Excel spreadsheet. The key thing, with any of it is the geolocation. So knowing where you saw that species, having a photograph if you can, all of that can be added to your twin.
So,
very good.
How did we all go adding an asset?
Pretty
I
good.
don't think we did, Wardy. I think we just talked.
Good.
Kristen, I'm just thinking on your question about quals. So the Qual Society, who's sort of floating around as a partner here, always keen to get reports. I mean, can we already link? I mean, I'm sure we can. We just from there, and we need to find in how we might link these exercises, these twins, back to their central data. Is that possible? So it's automatic. I see a qual near the chook yard, document it, put it up, bingo. Paul at Qual Society gets a message, or it adds somehow to his overall map of the region that we've seen a qual in our place. Is that theoretically that's possible, but is it practically possible now? Are we close or?
Close, but doesn't exist yet.
Oh,
Give us a minute.
And it's all possible. And I guess it's just about, I think one of the principles is this: enter data once and use it many times. I think what in the design, what we're trying to avoid is having to enter the same piece of data in lots of different locations. So that linking is really critical, Rick.
Yeah.
And it would depend on, do we want to use a bespoke qual specific tool, or do we want to use a tool that is a bit more flexible and maybe, and so who's accessing which data from which database? So there's a few questions that need to be answered in those kinds of puzzles, but it's all possible.
good.
Rick, I'll just going to demonstrate for Peter and Kim. So I'm going in on the digital twin for just model farm, but I wanted to show even the C+B pilot, which is quite a complex geometry, multiple individual paddocks that are separate from one another, can be imported from a basic KML file. So I don't know that it can be what you were thinking, Peter, that because individual polygons don't need to be brought in. You can bring in multiple polygons at one time. So, and if I was to remove that one and choose another KML, I don't know, Kirigala station had lots of Kirigala, and this came straight out of her this one gigabytes big, just based on how it is. We could end up spending a lot of time here.
Yeah.
I'll come back to Kirigala, but to show you that multiple polygons shouldn't be the issue, but we obviously still have an issue. All right, I'm going to go back now to our Miro board. We should have added a land asset and a water asset. I was really tossing and turning about whether I should have put these layers and mapping videos ahead of the asset videos, but I just wanted to get to the asset quickly because it's so important. But using layers in your digital twin, Rodney, this should go part to answering your question. Hi, folks. So say you're in an area of the digital twin where you want to use the map and you want to use layers. So layers can be turned on and off. So I'm going to turn that one off and you can see that the counts disappeared. I'll turn it back on and the counts reappear. Layers work to assets, they work to location types. You can put on and off various layers. Now, you've got various views. So this is the satellite view is your default, but you can take that to outdoors view or open street map view. Now, the twin at the moment is fairly immature. As we develop and give, particularly from South Queensland landscapes in the Traprock, your area, we've got lots of layers coming that will assist you to navigate to high value areas and understand your land in context. Okay, hope that helps. And mapping. Hi, folks. G'day, folks. Mapping is actually fairly easy within the twin. So if I want to activate the mapping tools, I scroll, say I'm in a land asset, to the map, and then I've got a few tools. We've already discussed layers. You've got zoom in and out. This will take you to locate based on where your computer is. This is a search bar, so you can search anywhere in the world and it will locate it on your screen. What is really interesting is this. So the most useful of these tools is actually the top square. That's called draw a polygon. Underneath is draw a line, draw a point, draw a circle, or modify features. So what I'm going to do is show you how modify features work. So I'm just going to change the shape of that asset. And what I've been able to do is modify an existing asset. If, however, I wanted to create a new asset and then, modify it, what I could do is using the polygon tool, which we prefer to use because using another tool type like the line tool isn't great, because if you don't get those lines to exactly meet, they don't snap lock together, you can end up having troubles running various algorithms. So we like to use the polygon tool, and you can create whatever shape you want. However, if you snap to an existing grid, it snaps it very easily. And then with a new shape or with the desired shape of any mapped asset, you can always go in and edit it as we did before. Using our editing tool, you can change the location and the shape of the file. Hope that works. Any problems, let your landscape agronomist know. All right, cheers. Okay. Were the layers and mapping videos useful? Do you understand? Do you have any questions as a result of seeing them?
All good.
Yes, Andrew, I was wondering, when you were using the mapping tools, which layer you were operating on?
That is a very good question. I think it's the default standard layer that, Kristen, I might need you to help me, because
I think the layer would be if you create a land parcel or a water or something, that's what you will actually, that's the layer then.
that creates a layer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you go back to your mapping that you shared and you switched on the layer, the layers is listed there, and it basically, like in mine, it says locations, water, land, and then there's all sorts of below that. I think what Rodney is asking, which one, if you create one, it actually, Rodney, if you create one, it gives you the opportunity to name and select it and so on. When I went through it, it actually, you first define that and then you create the actual polygon. So when you add an asset,
presumably you have to choose the layer that you are working on first.
So when you create the asset, that's when you select what asset it is. And if it's a land asset or a water asset, If you go through that screen, then it goes down and then it becomes under that layer.
Fine, but then in this case, Andrew was just starting with what was there. And so I guess he would have had to open up the layer menu in order to work out which layer he was operating on.
Yeah, so when you go to
all switched on, and if they're all switched on, then surely he's operating on them all.
Yeah, so but the way the system works, the way I worked it out is that when you go assets land, you select land, and then you go add land asset. And from there you pull in the form and you go and you create that asset, and that's how you know which layer it is. You can't, if you create it on the map, I don't know, I haven't tried that yet.
Okay, well, that was my question.
Peter is saying, Rodney, what Peter is saying is correct. The layer that is assigned is based on the type of asset you're creating.
Yes, but in this case, Andrew was not creating an asset. He was just drawing on it on the screen.
He was modifying it. He was modifying an existing asset.
So you still have to select that specific asset to edit it. So you can only edit one asset at a time. So it will depend on whatever is the selected asset. And yeah, so I guess it's around the language between layers and assets.
So when I just created an asset type then, and I called it an other, so I'm going to turn off, locations. I'm going to turn off all of them except for other, and those assets were other type. If I want to turn off other and put on property, then property becomes the layer. So all of the assets sit under a layer called land type, and you're defining the land type when you're here, bed, field, landmark, other, paddock, or property. Rodney, does that help?
Yes, I hope so. I think I just don't remember when you started that you were choosing any particular thing. I just thought you started with the map and you started drawing.
I mean, I can choose a thing that view the assets in the location from the map, and then typically you start with the edit, and then, you know, I think this was the example we used, like that. And then when I save, and we go back to this, you can see this asset has now been changed down here. But if I wanted to look at that particular asset, there it is, just there.
So the layers are a view function. And if you're editing, you need to select an asset first. And if you're creating an asset, it adds itself to that structure. So the layers are a viewing tool, really. So the layers are just which assets are you turning on and off visually. And if you're creating, you need to create an asset. And if you're editing, yes, you would need to select an asset to edit first. So you can't, it's not possible to accidentally edit everything.
Okay. Yeah.
Can I just ask a question, Wardy, and Kristen, maybe you can answer better than Wardy. The Southern Queensland landscapes maps that we're talking about bringing in, are they property specific or land area?
They're a bit of both. So
Yeah.
where they're a property, they're going to be brought in as a shape file, and where they're able to be shared from QGIS as a layer that can go across the whole of Southern Queensland's region, we'll take that. The ones that can go across the whole region are generally already publicly available. The ones that are shapefile by shapefile are ones where Mick Petter's put in some intellectual property in combining previous layers to create a graphic. And in that case, they're providing us the graphics to bring into each person's twin
Perfect.
on that
Thank you.
bit of.
And it might just be worth touching on that, depending on how that information's been created, it'll be really interesting to see how it sits with your knowledge of your properties. So there could be some finessing that might need to happen at the property scale, depending on how the layers have been created. Have they been created from regional data sets, or have they been ground traced already at that property scale?
Yeah, good point.
Just one more question. If someone has created a map of your property that contains a whole lot of information, can you bring that whole map in just as another layer?
I'm sure you can bring the stuff in. I'm not sure if there's one layer or multiple layers. I don't know enough, Rodney, about where it's coming from to say. Because if it's already created in, say, Google Earth across multiple layers, perhaps we need to bring them all in as individual layers. That's maybe Peter's point.
Or you could attach an image. So it might be that it's just enough to have the image of that sitting with as an attachment. So it depends how you want to use it, I guess, is one of the other questions. Like, if you're going to use that information to create new assets, is it a base map? Yeah. What kind of plan is it, and how do you want to use it? May also inform how you bring it in, or what part of it you might want to bring in.
The map that I'm thinking of is one that has divided the property into soil types and soil landscapes. And it is, if you like, it's almost base information that you need then for making decisions about how the property is going to be used.
So it's like a stratification, Rodney?
I wouldn't say, well, I'm not sure what you mean by stratification, but it's another way of looking at the whole property, just looking at soil types. It's not I mean, in a way you could say soil is an asset, and the way in which it is described is in this map form, which breaks the area up into the different kinds of soil types.
And how have you got, what format is that current map in, Rodney? Is it an image for you, or is it geo-referenced already? Is it a data file?
Geo-referenced already. It can come in a .kml format, but I think it probably could also come in other GIS formats.
If it's .kml, you could probably just experiment and try importing it as you have with the previous examples. It may be that it just neatly imports, and soils, I think, at the property scale would be very valuable information to have. And I guess that's the question for each of you, is what information have you already got that might inform your own enterprise? But I guess the landscape scale transactions are slightly different conversation. And so, but I think if it's KML, you could definitely give it a go importing it. Woody, what would you say?
Yeah, KML, GeoJSON, KMZ. And if it's of value, like knowing your soil types and having that mapped, if you've got a problem bringing that in on your own, that's where we'll totally help you. So we do have Kristen, myself, Rowan, who are relatively okay at this technical side of things. But sitting around us is Southern Queensland Landscapes, who've got great technology people in Alan and Mick. And then on the developer side for us are some really handy technologists as well. So if we can't do it, we can definitely find the people who can do it. And part of the thing about being a young organization is we don't know what people are going to need and want to do, and we haven't got a lot of use cases. So we are more than willing to learn, hey, this is what you need in order to make decisions. It's this map. It's currently stored on this other bit of software. And to make the twin useful, you want it on your twin. Well, then let us help you to make that possible. And then, you know, if we can't do it, we'll escalate it to the people that can until we find somebody that can help you, Rodney. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Andrew. No more questions.
Donna, have you got a question there?
I do actually. It's a question with regard to fence lines. Is it best to draw your fence lines with a polygon and show, so therefore you can then break your property up into different land areas?
Yes, Donna. Kim, I'm not meaning to throw you under the bus here, but we had quite a funny thing at the Southern at Stanthorpe Council the other day, where I was like, use polygons because polygons snap shut. And Kim later came to me and said, oh, I taught everybody how to use the line tool. And the line tool is good in that if you're drawing, you know, free form lines, it's good. But if you're trying to get the area within a line, unless that pixel that you left from and the pixel that you arrive back on are the same, you can't shade the area in between on a line drawing. So using the polygon tool for areas like paddocks are an area rather than a line of trees is a line of trees, right? So use a line tool for a line that doesn't include an area. Use a polygon tool for anything that includes the area would be my suggestion. Donna, did that make sense or did I confuse in that explanation?
No, that's fine. But I think what I was trying to say is that by defining a land area using the polygon tool, is there a specific assumption that that paddock is fenced in?
Well, the assumption, I guess, is that it's an area for research, but as we've got here, you know, these sorts of areas, we've got an example or two. We've got a carbon estimation area. We've got a boundary fence. We've got two lots, as in lot and DPs. So they're all different scales, if you want. Some are very big scaled, as in whole lots. And yeah, when I look at an area like that, I tend to think of it as fenced, but that is an assumption. It doesn't have to be. Yeah.
Okay, so long as I know and any of our users know that if we're making an area, a land area, is that if we use the assumption that yes, that's where the fence line is, I'm assuming then is that the system would then be able to calculate the length of our fence lines based on the polygon, the size of the polygons within the mapping area.
Yeah, and I mean that's a pretty good example actually. So we'll just do
Because what I'm trying to do is use this mapping tool as a farm tool, as well as a biodiversity tool. So if we can try and, because there's no point in having two different mapping types, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. So on screen now, Donna, I can go, okay, well, this is a 5 meter, and you can see that it's calculating the area within dynamically. So if you use that for identifying exactly where your fences are, that's pretty awesome. There's also, work we can do with lines, right? But the problem with the line is unless that's 100%. Oh, and even then, stop it.
Yeah, I still think the polygon tool is the way to go, to be honest.
Yeah, ditto.
Because ultimately the farm is fenced in all the way round. So yeah, that makes sense.
It looks as though you get areas with the polygon and you get distances with the line tool.
That's right.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, Rodney.
That's perfect description, Rodney. Thank you. All right. Over to our last video of me talking at you, and we're doing pretty well in terms of time. Congratulations, everybody. Hi, folks. We're going to create an activity now. So we navigate from the left and we add activity logs. So what we want to do here is maybe a bird count, and make sure you spell your activity correctly. I want to do this tomorrow, and I therefore will set this as pending, but it could be completed activities you've done. I actually want to assign this activity to somebody. I want to give them some notes. So how to do bird counts? Well, let's see how that's done. We can provide that there. I'm not sure that this person knows what they're looking for, so I can add a picture of what the Swift parrot looks like that we're trying to capture. And if I want them to use a particular type of file or a particular method, I can attach that document. So I'm going to, assume that to be a document as well. We can add that. We can locate that. We want to do this one at a known site or a known location, or we can draw a polygon as to where we'd like it to be carried out. And then we press save. So very easily now, when I go to my homepage, I can see I've got a few things. I've got the general bird count, and then I've got the Swift bird count. And if I'm the person doing the Swift bird count, I can see the documents and the notes that have been assigned to me to help me to conduct that activity. Now, activities and the log of activities go to show your measurement, verification, and reporting, and goes to show your proof of claims. It's very important and very easy. Hope this helps. All right. So I thought what we'd do in the remaining few minutes is give you a chance to add an activity for yourself. And you can choose an activity that you're likely to do. One activity, for example, is entering in the meeting on the 7th of November at the Southern Downs Regional Council building. And so if you all want to put into your twins, 1 o'clock till 4 p.m, 7th of November, in-person meeting with the Traprockers. I'll give you a few minutes to do that, and you can add that to your twin.
Andy, I have a question.
Yes.
Because obviously we've all owned our properties previously, can we add in previous activities if they're relevant? For example, if we've had on our environmental stewardship project, if we've had an audit on a particular day by the Queensland Herbarium, if we can add that in as a historic data.
I would highly recommend that you do so. So I'm doing that for a farmer down in Tasmania who's got a visit by Albanese and his crew coming to see this Tasmanian farm. So I'm busy backdating. And just to show you how it's done, Donna, is I'll just go to the right window. When you go to the twin and you want to add a log for an activity in the past, you might be naming it, you know, session or whatever. Instead of it being pending, it's done, and you backdate it to 2021. And then who was the person involved? And then you put them them in place. Okay.
Right. If they're not on the drop down list,
yes.
For example, if it was the Queensland Herbarium team,
yep,
how would you just record that information under notes? So it would be me and then any extra people outside the users would go down as so you're putting Queensland Herbarium. So the activities Queensland Herbarium audit.
Yeah, audit, sorry.
All the stock.
And then when did it happen?
It would the 20th of March 2020.
Okay, 2003, 2020.
2020.
Yep. And then click it as done.
Done.
And
Yep.
then you would, if no one is
Would it go
assigned-
flag as monitor, or you wouldn't need to put any flags?
No, you don't need to, because that's mainly about
Okay.
dates. So done.
Yep. So that would be assigned to, that would be me, would it?
Yeah. Yeah, your own name here.
Yep, I'd be on there. Yep.
You'd put in the notes. If they ended up giving you a report back, you can even go grab the report. Like I'm just using it as an example.
Sure. Yeah.
Here's a PDF. Yep.
And
you can bring up the report.
And sorting them. This
And
is the way
then
you have to add it always.
when you press save, you've now got in your records, bear in mind, logs, overview. I can now look at the done one, and it's the Queensland Herbarium, and then the pending ones. Yep.
Right.
The pending ones are future, unless they're pending and they've happened, in which case they'll now appear here as late tasks, right?
Right.
Tells me on my dashboard, oh, I'm yet to do these tasks, and these are the tasks that are coming up. And then any tasks that you've already done will be marked as done rather than pending, and they'll have a historical update.
That's really good, because that's information that I've got already, and yeah, I can assign it to the one place.
Yep, perfect.
Great, thank you.
We've got 2 minutes left. Any more questions? Any concerns? Did anybody struggle with anything or want some further assistance?
I'm sure we'll all struggle.
Yeah, half it will disappear out of my hard drive, so I'll be calling on Kim to refresh me. So, but no, that was good, Wardy. Thank you. And it's not, well, at the superficial level, it's not too difficult. But
Yeah,
Pretty straightforward.
it really isn't difficult. I'll give you links to that Miro board, and all of those videos are available for you to click through and watch in your leisure as well. Okay.
And can I, just before everybody goes, can I run through quickly and just see availability for each person? I'd like to book some time in to talk to you about your carbon project.
I'm
An
just going to
assessment?
stop the recording.